My name is Grace. I am 26 years old, and I live in a quiet apartment in the city. The music stopped. The entire ballroom went dead silent. I felt the stinging burn of alcohol in my eyes before I even realized what had happened. My sister stood right in front of me, her chest heaving, an empty champagne glass in her hand. The golden liquid dripped down my face and soaked into the white lace of my wedding dress. But she wasn't done. Before anyone could move, she grabbed the top tier of my 5-layer wedding cake. It was red velvet. With a scream, she slammed it hard into my chest. The red cake exploded against my white bodice. The bright red icing smeared across my stomach and chest like a fresh, deep wound. It looked like blood. I gasped, trying to breathe, sticky and humiliated. I looked for my mother. I needed her to help me, but she didn't come to me. She ran to my sister. She wrapped her arms around her, whispering, "It's okay, SHH, it's okay," comforting the person who just attacked me. My father just turned his back. He wouldn't even look at me. The guests stared. They looked at me with judgment, as if I had caused this chaos. I stood there, covered in red cake and champagne, completely alone. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I wiped a smear of frosting from my neck and stared at them. They thought I was broken. They didn't know that while they were making a scene, I was already making a plan. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Grace. I am 26 years old. To understand why I stood there silent, covered in cake and humiliation, you have to understand my life before that day. You have to understand the rules of my family. There was really only one rule, repeated my entire life by my mother and father. Grace, look out for your sister. My sister's name is Lily. She is 2 years younger than me. From the moment she was born, it felt like my job description changed from daughter to assistant mother. Lily was beautiful. She was loud, funny, and chaotic. Everyone loved her instantly. I loved her too. When we were little girls, I spent hours braiding her hair because she couldn't sit still long enough for Mom to do it. I was the one who taught her how to tie her shoes. I was the one who held her hand when she got her shots at the doctor's office because Mom said she couldn't handle the crying. As we got older, the job got harder. When Lily was 16, she took Dad's car without asking and scratched the whole side against the mailbox. She came running into my room, crying hysterically. "Grace, you have to say you did it," she begged, gripping my arm. "Dad won't be mad at you. You're the good one. He'll kill me." I didn't want to lie. I hated lying. But my mother walked in and saw Lily crying. She didn't ask what happened. She just looked at me with tired eyes. "Grace, fix it," Mom said. "Don't upset your father, just handle it." So I handled it. I told Dad I misjudged the driveway. He was disappointed in me. He gave me a lecture about responsibility. I just nodded and took it. Lily didn't even say thank you. She just went to the mall with her friends. That became the pattern of our lives. Lily made messes, and my parents expected me to clean them up. They called it family loyalty. "Family helps family, Grace," my father would say, clapping me on the shoulder after I bilayed Lily out of another problem. But as I got into my 20s, I realized something painful. Family helps family only worked one way in our house. It always meant Grace gives and Lily takes. I worked 2 jobs in college to pay my own tuition so my parents wouldn't be stressed about money. They used the money they saved on me to pay for Lily's 3 different attempts at college. She dropped out every time. When I graduated and got my first real job at a marketing firm, I was so proud. I rented a small, neat apartment in the city. It was mine. It was quiet. 3 months later, Lily showed up at my door with 4 suitcases. Her boyfriend had kicked her out. "Just for a few weeks, Gracie," she said, breezing past me into my living room. "Until I get on my feet." A few weeks turned into a year. My quiet apartment became a disaster zone. Her clothes were everywhere. She ate my food. She never paid rent. If I asked her for money for the electric bill, she would roll her eyes. "God, Grace, why are you so obsessed with money? You know I'm struggling right now. You're so selfish." If I tried to talk to my parents about it, they shut me down immediately. "She's your sister," Mom would snap on the phone. "She needs a safe place. You have a good job. You can afford to help her. Don't be greedy." I wasn't greedy. I was tired. Eventually, Lily decided she wanted to try school again. She wanted to go to a very expensive private art school in the city. My parents couldn't afford the deposit or the CASAN requirement for her student housing. They called a family meeting. "We need you to CASAN for Lily's apartment," my father said. It wasn't a question. It was an order. I tried to say no. Dad, my credit score is finally good. If she doesn't pay, that falls on me. I want to buy a house someday with Mark. Mark was my boyfriend at the time. We were getting serious. My mother started to cry. I can't believe you would choose money over your sister's future. After all we did for you. They always used that line. After all we did for you. I still don't know what they did for me, besides expect me to raise their other daughter. But the guilt worked. It always worked. I signed the lease papers. I paid the tuition deposit out of my savings account, money I was saving for my own wedding. Lily hugged me tightly that day. "You're the best sister ever," she said. For a moment, I believed her. I wanted to believe that if I just gave enough, if I just helped enough, she would finally be okay, and my parents would finally see me as something other than a utility. But Lily didn't change. She just got more resentful. I was building a life. I was doing well at work. Mark proposed to me. I was happy. And the happier I got, the angrier Lily became. She started making little comments. If I bought a nice new purse for work, she'd say, "Must be nice to just throw money around." If Mark bought me flowers, she'd scoff. "He's just trying to make up for something." She was borrowing my life, living in an apartment I secured, going to a school I paid the deposit for, but she hated me for having it. She felt entitled to everything I earned. And my parents fed that entitlement every single day. They were so proud of her for going back to school, even though I was the one making it possible. They never told me they were proud of me. They just expected me to keep the machine running. I was the foundation of my family, but they treated me like the doormat. And I let them, because I thought that's what love was. When Mark and I announced our engagement, my parents were happy, I think, but their happiness always had a shadow over it. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said when I showed her the ring. Then, immediately, her face fell. Oh, poor Lily. She's going to be so upset. She always wanted to get married first. My engagement wasn't about me and Mark starting our lives together. It was about how it would affect Lily's feelings. Throughout the wedding planning, the tension in my family became unbearable. Lily was my maid of honor. I didn't have a choice. My mother insisted. "It will bring you two closer," Mom said. It tore us apart completely. Lily didn't want to help with the wedding. She wanted to sabotage it. It started with small things, little digs designed to make me feel insecure. I remember my first dress fitting. I stood on the pedestal in the bridal salon, wearing a beautiful white A-line gown. I felt like a princess. I looked in the mirror and finally felt special. My mother was tearing up. But Lily was sitting on a velvet couch in the corner, scrolling through her phone. "What do you think, Lily?" I asked, desperate for her approval. She didn't look up from her phone. She just muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Must be nice to always win." The sales lady looked uncomfortable. My smile faded. "What does that mean?" I asked her. Lily finally looked up, her eyes cold. "Nothing, Grace. It's a pretty dress. You always get the pretty things, we get it." My mother immediately jumped in. "Lily is just stressed about finals, Grace. Don't be sensitive, the dress is lovely." I stood there in my wedding gown, feeling stupid for thinking this day could just be about me. As the wedding got closer, Lily's behavior got worse. The biggest red flag, the one that should have made me call the whole thing off, was the bachelorette party. I didn't want a big party. I just wanted a quiet weekend away with my 4 bridesmaids at a nice Airbnb near a lake. I wanted to relax. Lily was supposed to plan it. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, I asked her for the itinerary. "Oh my God, Grace, chill out," she snapped. "It's handled. I'm the fun sister, remember? Let me handle the fun." When we arrived at the lake house, I realized she hadn't handled anything. She hadn't booked the dinner reservations I asked for. She hadn't bought any groceries. The house was nice, but Lily immediately started trashing it. By Friday night, she was already drunk. She had invited random people over to liven things up. I was sitting in the kitchen, trying to clean up spilled vodka, while my sister was dancing on a coffee table. But the worst part wasn't the mess. It was who she invited. Mark had a cousin named Kyle. Kyle was known in the family as trouble. He was charming but sleazy. Mark didn't like him and only invited him to the wedding out of obligation. Lily invited Kyle to my bachelorette party. I walked into the living room around midnight and found Lily sitting on Kyle's lap. She was whispering in his ear, giggling. He had his hand on her thigh. My stomach dropped. "Lily, what are you doing?" I asked. She looked at me, her eyes glassy and defiant. "We're just talking, Grace. God, you're such a prude. No wonder Mark is bored." The other bridesmaids went silent. "Mark isn't bored," I said, my voice shaking. Whatever, Lily said, turning back to Kyle. I went to my room and locked the door. I cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to find that Lily had posted photos of the night on social media. There was a photo of her and Kyle looking very cozy. The caption read, "Real connections happen when you stop pretending to be perfect." Then she posted a selfie, just her looking fierce. The caption said, "Some people need a crown to feel important, I just show up." It was a direct attack on me, everyone knew it. When I got home, I tried to talk to my parents about it. Mom, she ruined the weekend. And she was all over Mark's cousin, it was humiliating. My father sighed loudly, lowering his newspaper. Grace, you are getting married, you have everything. Why do you have to pick on your sister? She's just high-spirited. You know how she is. She was disrespectful to me and to Mark, I insisted. You need to be the bigger person, my mother said, using her favorite phrase. Keep the peace, Grace. Don't ruin your wedding by starting a fight with your sister. So I kept the peace. I swallowed my hurt. I pretended everything was fine. I thought that if I just got to the wedding day, everything would be okay. I thought once I was married, I would be safe. I was so wrong. The real heartbreak didn't happen at the wedding. It happened 2 weeks before, on a Tuesday evening. It was accident. A stupid, random accident that changed my entire life. Mark and I were at home, watching a movie. He had left his phone on the coffee table while he went to the kitchen to get more popcorn. His phone buzzed. Usually, I would never look. I trusted Mark completely. He was the good guy in my life. He was the one who saw how my family treated me and told me I deserved better. He was my safe harbor. But the phone buzzed again and again. 3 texts in a row. I glanced down at the screen. The name on the notification was Lily. That was strange. Why was my sister texting my fiancé 3 times in a row at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday? My heart started beating faster. A sick feeling spread through my gut. I knew I shouldn't look, but I couldn't stop myself. I picked up the phone. I didn't know his passcode, but the messages were visible on the lock screen. The first message, "Are you sure she doesn't suspect anything?" The second message, "I miss you, that hotel room last week was wow." The third message, "Don't forget to delete this." The world stopped turning. The air left the room. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just stared at the words on the screen until they blurred. Mark walked back into the room with a bowl of popcorn. He saw me holding his phone. He saw my face. He froze. The color drained out of his face. "Grace." I didn't say anything. I couldn't speak. I just held up the phone so he could see the screen. He dropped the popcorn bowl. It clattered on the floor, kernels scattering everywhere. "Grace, wait, let me explain," he started, his voice panic-stricken. I stood up. I felt weirdly calm. It was like my emotions had short-circuited. I walked past him into our bedroom and locked the door. I sat on the bed and opened my laptop. I knew his password for his laptop. It was my birthday. I logged into his messaging account. It was all there. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It had been going on for 3 months. I read things that made me want to throw up. They had met up at hotels during his late nights at the office. I found pictures they sent each other. I saw a photo of Lily wearing one of my dresses, a blue silk dress I loved. I had taken it to the tailor for alterations a month ago, and when I went to pick it up, they said it was already gone. I thought they lost it. Lily had picked it up. She wore it on a date with my fiancé. Then I saw something that shattered the last remaining piece of my heart. There was a text from Mark to Lily from 2 weeks ago. "I can't wait to see you tonight. Meet me at the Pier Point Grill." The Pier Point Grill was where Mark proposed to me. It was our special place. He took her there. He took my sister to the place where he asked me to spend my life with him. I sat there for hours just reading. I read about how they laughed at me. Lily wrote, "She's so clueless. She thinks her little wedding is going to be perfect." Mark replied, "I feel bad, but I can't help how I feel about you." They made me sound pathetic, boring, stupid. Around 3 a.m., Mark knocked softly on the door. "Grace, please talk to me. It was a mistake. I love you. Please open the door." I didn't answer. I didn't cry that night. I think I was in shock. But beneath the shock, something else was happening. All my life, when people hurt me, I cried. I begged for an apology. I tried to fix it. I tried to be the bigger person so they would love me again. But sitting there in the dark, looking at the proof that the 2 people I loved most in the world had completely destroyed me, I realized that being the bigger person was what got me here. Being good hadn't saved me. Being loyal hadn't protected me. I decided, right then and there, that I was done being Grace the fixer. I was done being Grace the doormat. I didn't open the door, I didn't scream at Mark, I didn't call Lily, I didn't tell my parents. If I told them now, they would somehow make it my fault. They would tell me to forgive them. They would try to sweep it under the rug to save face before the wedding. No, I wasn't going to let them do that. I needed them to see what they had done. I needed everyone to see. I had 2 weeks until the wedding. 2 weeks to pretend I was a happy, oblivious bride. 2 weeks to plan. I closed the laptop. I wiped my tearless face. I unlocked the bedroom door and walked out. Mark was sleeping on the couch, looking miserable. He woke up when I walked past. Grace, I looked at him. I felt nothing. No love, no anger, just cold clarity. We have a lot to do before the wedding, Mark, I said calmly. Go get some sleep. He looked confused, terrified. He didn't know what to make of my reaction. He thought maybe he got away with it. He thought maybe I was too weak to leave him. Let him think that. For the next 14 days, I played my role perfectly. I smiled at the final fittings. I wrote my vows. I let Lily pretend to be the dutiful maid of honor. Inside, I was dying. But I knew that the only way out of this family trap was to burn it down completely. And I was going to wait until the perfect moment to strike the match. My wedding day dawned bright and clear. It was a perfect autumn day. My mother came into the bridal suite where I was getting my hair done. She was fluttering around, nervous and excited. "Oh, Grace, you look beautiful," she said, tearing up. "Everything is perfect. Aren't you happy?" I looked at her in the mirror. I saw the face of a woman who had consistently chosen my abuser over me for 26 years. "I'm ready, Mom," I said. Lily arrived late, of course. She burst in, smelling faintly of tequila, her bridesmaid dress slightly wrinkled. "Sorry I'm late, traffic was a bitch," she said, flopping onto a chair. She looked at me. "You look nice." "You look tired, Lily," I said quietly. She glared at me. "Whatever, let's just get this over with." The ceremony was an out-of-body experience. I walked down the aisle with my father. He whispered, "You've done good, Gracie," before handing me off to the man who was sleeping with my sister. I looked at Mark at the altar. He looked handsome. He also looked like he was going to throw up. He couldn't hold my eye contact. I said my vows. I promised to love and cherish him. Every word felt like ash in my mouth. But I said them perfectly. I needed everyone to see the perfect bride. Then came the reception. The ballroom was stunning. The chandeliers glittered. The flowers were expensive. We had the first dance. We listened to speeches. My father gave a speech about how lucky Mark was to get a girl like me, the rock of the family. My mother cried some more. Then it was time to cut the cake. It was a magnificent cake. 5 tiers, white fondant with delicate sugar flowers cascading down the side. Inside, it was red velvet. My favorite. Mark and I held the knife together. We cut the first slice. The photographer snapped pictures. As we stepped back from the cake table, Lily walked up to give her maid of honor toast. She already had a microphone in one hand and a full glass of champagne in the other. She was visibly drunk now. Her eyes were wild. The room went quiet. Everyone liked Lily, but everyone also knew she was unpredictable. "To my sister Grace," she started into the microphone, her voice slurring slightly. "The perfect bride, the perfect daughter, the perfect everything." She laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "You know, it must be so exhausting being you, Grace, always doing the right thing, always making the rest of us look like crap." My mother stood up at the head table. "Lily, that's enough," she hissed. Lily ignored her. She turned to look directly at me. The hatred in her eyes was terrifying. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" she shouted. "With your perfect job and your perfect husband. You think you deserve all of this." She took a step closer to me. "Well, guess what, Gracie? You don't win this time. You don't get to have it all." Then it happened. She threw the champagne. It hit me full in the face. The cold liquid stung my eyes. I heard the glass shatter on the floor. The room gasped. Before I could wipe the champagne from my eyes, Lily lunged past me to the cake table. With a guttural scream of rage, she grabbed the top tier of the wedding cake with her bare hands. She spun around and slammed it into my chest. The impact knocked the breath out of me. The red velvet cake exploded. Red icing smeared across my beautiful white dress, thick and crimson. It looked exactly like blood. I stood there, stunned, sticky, and exposed. The music died. The silence in the huge ballroom was suffocating. I looked at Mark. He was frozen, staring at me with horror. I looked for my parents. My mother rushed past me. She didn't look at me. She went straight to Lily, who was standing there panting, her hands covered in red icing. "Lily, honey, calm down," Mom whispered, wrapping her arms around my sister. "It's okay, SHH, come with me." She was comforting the attacker. My father stood up and turned his back to the room. He couldn't deal with the scene, so he just checked out. Nobody came to me. I was the bride. I had just been assaulted at my own wedding. And I was completely alone in a room full of 200 people. The guests stared at me. I could see the pity in their eyes, but also the judgment. What did she do to make her sister so mad? There must be something wrong with Grace. I felt the sticky icing seeping through the fabric of my dress onto my skin. I felt the weight of 26 years of being second best crushing me. But then, a strange sensation washed over me. The numbness I had felt for 2 weeks suddenly cleared. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even embarrassed anymore. I looked at my mother cooing over Lily. I looked at my cowardly new husband. I looked at my useless father. I realized they expected me to cry. They expected me to run out of the room. They expected me to need them to fix this. I didn't need them. I wiped a blob of red frosting from my collarbone. I took a deep breath. I stood up straighter. While they were all reacting to Lily's chaos, they didn't realize that the chaos was exactly what I needed. Lily had just given me the perfect exit. I had been planning for 2 weeks. And while I stood there covered in cake, my plan was already in motion. The real show was just beginning. I didn't run out of the ballroom crying. That's what everyone expected me to do. They expected the victim Grace to cover her face, sob hysterically, and flee to the bathroom while her mother chased after her. Instead, I walked. I turned away from the cake table, my dress heavy with red velvet frosting and sticky champagne. I didn't look at Mark. I didn't look at my sister, who was now being held by my mother like a fragile child. I didn't look at my father, who was studying the ceiling. I walked straight down the center aisle, the same aisle I had walked down 30 minutes earlier as a hopeful bride. My head was high. My face was blank. I could hear the whispers of the guests as I passed them. "Is she okay? She's in shock. Look at the dress, it's ruined." I walked out the double doors, past the horrified wedding planner, and straight to the elevators. I pressed the button for the penthouse suite, the bridal suite. When the doors closed, cutting off the noise of the reception, I finally let out a breath. I looked at my reflection in the mirrored walls of the elevator. I looked like a horror movie survivor. The red icing was smeared across my chest and neck. My mascara wasn't running, though. I hadn't shed a single tear since I saw those text messages 2 weeks ago. The elevator dinged. I walked down the silent hallway, my ruined dress rustling softly. I entered the suite and locked the door. I engaged the deadbolt. Then I put the privacy chain on. I needed to be unreachable. I walked into the bathroom and peeled off the dress. It landed on the floor with a heavy, wet thud. I didn't feel sad looking at it. That dress represented a lie. It represented me trying to be the perfect princess for a family that treated me like a servant. I stepped into the shower. I turned the water on as hot as I could stand it. I scrubbed the red sugar and the sticky alcohol off my skin. I watched the red water swirl down the drain. It really did look like blood. I felt like I was washing away my old life. I was washing away Grace the doormat, Grace the fixer, Grace the good daughter. When I stepped out, I dried off and put on a hotel bathrobe. I wrapped my wet hair in a towel. I felt clean, I felt cold, I felt focused. I walked into the living area of the suite. My phone was blowing up on the table. 50 notifications, calls from Mark, texts from my dad, texts from bridesmaids. Mark: "Grace, please open the door. We need to talk." "Dad, you're making a scene by hiding. Come downstairs and help us smooth this over." "Mom, Lily is hysterical. You need to come apologize for provoking her." I stared at that last text from my mother. Apologize for provoking her. My sister throws champagne in my face and destroys my wedding cake, and my mother wants me to apologize. That text was the final key. It unlocked the last door in my mind. Any tiny shred of guilt I might have felt about what I was about to do vanished completely. I sat down at the desk by the window. I opened my laptop. The glow of the screen illuminated the dark room. I wasn't just sitting there to sulk. I had work to do. For years, I had handled all the logistics for my family. I paid the bills. I managed the accounts. I knew every password. I knew every security question. They trusted me to handle the boring details of their lives because they were too lazy to do it themselves. They thought I was their secretary. They forgot that the secretary holds the keys to the kingdom. First, I went to the university portal. Lily was enrolled in a prestigious art program. It cost a fortune. My parents couldn't afford it, so I had paid the deposit. I had set up the payment plan in my name. My credit card was the one on file for the semester's tuition. I logged in. My fingers moved steadily over the keys. I navigated to the Payment Options tab. I saw the upcoming charge for the fall semester. It was scheduled to draft from my savings account in 3 days. I clicked Cancel Payment Plan. A warning box popped up. Are you sure? Failure to secure payment will result in immediate unenrollment. I clicked Yes. Then, I went to the refund section for the deposit. Since classes hadn't started yet, the deposit was refundable up to 48 hours before the start date. That was tomorrow. I clicked Process Refund. The money, $5,000 that I had worked overtime for, $5,000 that I had saved while wearing old shoes and skipping lunches, would be back in my account within 5 business days. Lily's status on the screen changed from enrolled to pending payment. Without my money, she had nothing. My parents didn't have $20,000 lying around for tuition. Next, the apartment. I logged into the property management website. This was the apartment I had co-signed for. The lease was under my name as the guarantor. That meant I had the legal right to terminate the lease if the primary tenant hadn't moved in yet. Lily was supposed to get the keys on Monday. I navigated to the lease agreement. I found the clause for early termination by guarantor. It required a fee, but it was worth it. I typed in a brief message to the landlord. Due to unforeseen financial changes, I am withdrawing as guarantor for this lease effective immediately. Please cancel the move-in scheduled for Monday. I hit send. Without a guarantor, Lily didn't qualify for the apartment. Her credit score was terrible. She had no income. She would be homeless on Monday. I sat back for a moment. The room was silent. I poured myself a glass of water from the pitcher on the desk. My hands weren't shaking. I took a sip. I wasn't done. There was one more financial tie. My parents had a family emergency fund that I contributed to every month. They claimed it was for emergencies, but I knew they often dipped into it for Lily's emergencies, like concert tickets or car repairs when she crashed. I logged into that bank account. It was a joint account with my name on it. I transferred every single cent I had contributed over the last 5 years back into my personal account. It was nearly $15,000. Then, I did something that made me smile for the first time that night. I opened a new browser tab. I went to the website of a local education charity I supported. There was a girl named Tara. I had met her through a mentorship program at my work. Tara was 19. She had grown up in foster care. She was brilliant, kind, and hardworking. She was studying engineering at the state college, working 2 jobs to pay for her books. She never asked for anything. She ate instant noodles so she could afford bus fare. I thought about Lily, throwing champagne and demanding attention. I thought about Tara, studying quietly in the library until midnight. I took $10,000, money I had originally set aside for Lily's expenses, and I set up a direct scholarship grant for Tara. I typed in the note, for a student who earned every inch of her life. Good luck, I hit donate. It was done. In less than an hour, I had dismantled the safety net that my sister used as a hammock. I had cut the financial cords that tied me to them. I closed the laptop. My phone was still buzzing. I picked it up and looked at it. My father was calling again. I didn't answer. Instead, I went to my contacts. I selected Mom, Dad, Lily, and Mark. I pressed block caller for each of them. The buzzing stopped. The silence in the room was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. For the first time in my life, my resources were my own. My hard work was for me, or for people who actually deserved it. I walked over to the window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere down there, my wedding reception was probably ending in disaster. People were probably gossiping. Mark was probably panicking. Lily was probably crying about how mean I was. Let them. I turned off the lights and got into the huge, soft hotel bed. I thought I would have nightmares. I thought I would stare at the ceiling. But I fell asleep instantly. It was the best sleep I had in years. I woke up the next morning at 6 a.m. naturally. The sun was streaming through the hotel curtains. For a split second, I had that heavy feeling in my chest, the feeling of I have to fix something today. Then I remembered. I didn't have to fix anything. I had burned the bridge. I ordered room service, coffee, fruit, and toast. I ate slowly, enjoying the quiet. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't check my social media. At 8 a.m., it was time for Phase 2. Mark worked for a very prestigious financial consulting firm. They were old-fashioned, conservative, and extremely strict about their code of conduct. Mark was proud of his job. He bragged about it constantly. He loved the status. He loved the suits. He loved the idea that he was a high-value man. But he had signed a contract. I knew because I proofread it for him when he got hired. There was a specific clause. Section 4.2, Relationships and Conflicts of Interest. It stated that employees could not engage in romantic relationships with clients, competitors, or immediate family members of other employees or partners in a way that could bring reputational damage or scandal to the firm. Mark's boss was a man named Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was a deacon at his church. He was a family man. He had met me at the company Christmas party. He had shaken my hand and told Mark, "You've got a winner here, son. Don't mess it up." Mr. Henderson hated scandal. He hated mess. I opened my laptop again. I had a folder on my desktop named The Truth. Inside were the screenshots I had taken 2 weeks ago. I drafted an email. I didn't send it from my personal account. I sent it from a generic address, but I signed it with my name. I wanted him to know it was me. Subject: Violation of Code of Conduct, Mark Sterling to Human Resources. Mr. James Henderson, Senior Partner. Dear Mr. Henderson, I am writing to formally report a violation of the company's morality and relationship clauses regarding your employee, Mark Sterling. Mark has been engaging in an affair with his future sister-in-law while using company funds and company time. Attached you will find receipts for hotel stays booked on his corporate card during business trips that were actually local meetups. You will also find time-stamped messages sent during working hours that detail these encounters. Furthermore, the public scene caused by this illicit relationship at our wedding yesterday has already begun to circulate on social media, potentially associating your firm with this domestic scandal. I believe a man who lacks integrity in his personal contracts will likely lack integrity in his professional ones. Sincerely, Grace. I attached the files. The receipts were damning. Mark was sloppy. He had used his corporate Amex for the hotel room where he slept with my sister. He probably thought no one would check. Or maybe he planned to label it as a client meeting. That was fraud. I hit send. I imagined the scene at Mark's office. It was Monday morning. He wouldn't be there yet. He was probably hungover and frantically trying to find me. But Mr. Henderson would be there. The HR director would be there. I leaned back in my chair and waited. I didn't have to wait long to see the results, though I wasn't there in person. Around 10:15 a.m., my phone, which I had unblocked just for incoming notifications from others, pinged with a message from Ian. Ian was Mark's junior associate. He was the quiet guy in the office. Mark treated him like an intern, making him fetch coffee and do the grunt work. Mark often made fun of Ian behind his back, calling him soft. I had always been nice to Ian. I remembered his wife's name, Sarah, and sent them a card when their baby was born. The text from Ian read, "Grace, I don't know what's happening, but security just escorted Mark out of the building." He was crying. "Mr. Henderson looks furious. Are you okay?" I stared at the screen. Security escorted him out. It was happening. The dominoes were falling exactly as I calculated. Mark didn't just lose a job, he lost his career. In that industry, word travels fast. Terminated for expense, fraud, and gross misconduct is a death sentence. He wouldn't be able to get a job at another top firm. He would be lucky to get a job at a local bank branch. I replied to Ian, "I'm okay, Ian. I'm actually better than I've been in a long time. Congratulations on the promotion. I have a feeling you're about to get one." Ian didn't know it yet, but Mark's portfolio would have to go somewhere. It would go to the person who was already doing all the work. Ian. I closed the laptop. I pictured Mark standing on the sidewalk outside his fancy office building, holding a box of his personal belongings. He was probably trying to call Lily. He was probably trying to call his mom. He had lost his fiancé. He had lost his 6-figure salary. He had lost his reputation. And the most satisfying part, I didn't scream at him. I didn't slash his tires. I didn't set his clothes on fire. I just used the rules. Mark loved rules. He loved protocols. He loved to tell me, "Grace, you have to be logical." So I was logical. I reported a policy violation. I let the system do the work for me. I checked out of the hotel at noon. I wore a pair of jeans and a sweater I had packed in my emergency bag weeks ago. I left the ruined wedding dress in the bathtub. I didn't want it. The cleaning staff could throw it away. I walked out into the bright sunlight of the city. I hailed a cab. "Where to, miss?" the driver asked. I gave him the address of a small, furnished apartment I had rented under my middle name 3 days ago. It wasn't a penthouse. It was a studio in a quiet neighborhood. But it was mine. "New in town?" the driver asked, looking at me in the rearview mirror. I smiled. It was a real smile. "Sort of," I said. "I'm starting over." As the cab merged into traffic, I felt a lightness in my chest I hadn't felt since I was a little girl. The heavy weight of my sister, my parents, and Mark was gone. I had cut the ropes. But I knew the explosion wasn't over. The fallout was just beginning. By Monday evening, the silence I had created was broken. Not because I unblocked them, but because they found other ways to reach me. I was sitting in my new apartment, unpacking a box of books. It was quiet. I had bought a cheap burner phone just in case of emergencies, but I kept my main phone on Do Not Disturb. However, I could see the notifications piling up on the lock screen like debris from a shipwreck. My sister had taken her rage to the internet. Since she couldn't scream at me in person, she decided to scream at the world. A friend of mine sent me screenshots of Lily's Facebook and Instagram stories. It was a meltdown of epic proportions. She posted a video of herself crying in her car. Her mascara was running. She was screaming into the camera. "My own sister ruined my life," she sobbed. "She canceled my school. She got me evicted. Who does that to family? She's a monster. She's jealous because Mark wanted me." She admitted it. In her attempt to play the victim, she admitted the affair. The comments section was a war zone. But surprisingly, most people weren't on her side. "Wait, did you sleep with her fiancé?" one comment read. "You ruined her wedding and you're mad she stopped paying your bills. The audacity is wild," wrote another. Lily was deleting the negative comments as fast as she could, but there were too many. She was trying to spin the narrative, but the facts were too ugly. Then came the email from my mother. Since I blocked her number, she sent a long email with the subject line, "Sins of the Father." I opened it, sipping my tea. "Grace, I don't know where you are, but your father and I are sick with worry. How could you do this? Lily is distraught. She has nowhere to go. The university says she is unenrolled. The landlord turned her away. The Bible says, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. You are hardening your heart, Grace. You are destroying this family over a mistake. Mark is sorry. Lily is sorry. But you are being vindictive. We need you to fix this. Wire the money back for Lily's school immediately. Call Mr. Henderson and tell him you lied about Mark. If you don't, you are no daughter of mine. Love, Mom, I read the email twice. You are no daughter of mine." She had finally said it. The threat she had been holding over my head my entire life. "Do what we say, or you don't belong to us." It used to terrify me. I used to work so hard to avoid hearing those words. Now, they meant nothing. I didn't reply with an apology. I didn't reply with an explanation. I replied with one single link. It was a link to a local family therapy clinic that specialized in narcissistic family dynamics and enabling. Under the link, I wrote one sentence. "I'm not fixing this. I'm finished. Here is a number for a professional who can help you understand why." I hit send. Then I blocked her email address. My father was different. He didn't write emails. He showed up. He went to my old apartment, the one I had shared with Mark. He didn't know I wasn't there. My neighbor from that building, Mrs. Higgins, called me on my old number. I picked up because I saw her name. "Grace, honey," she whispered. "Your dad is banging on your door. He's yelling. He's saying something about a trust fund." "I'm not there, Mrs. Higgins," I said gently. "I moved out." "Oh, good for you," she said. "He looks red in the face. He's shouting that you're ungrateful. He's making a real scene. The police are coming." "Let them come," I said. "I'm safe." "He's saying you stole his money," she added. "I took back my own money," I corrected. "He knows that. He's just mad he can't control it anymore." "Well, stay safe, honey. I'll tell the police he's harassing a tenant who doesn't live here." I hung up. I sat in the silence of my new studio. I pictured my father, the man who always told me to keep the peace, now screaming in a hallway while neighbors called the cops. They were exploding. Without me there to absorb their toxicity, without me there to quietly clean up the messes and pay the bills and soothe the egos, they were turning on each other. Lily was blaming Mom for not fixing it. Dad was blaming Mark for getting caught. Mom was blaming me. It was a chaotic, ugly implosion. And for the first time, I wasn't in the blast radius. I walked over to my small kitchenette. I made a grilled cheese sandwich. It was a simple dinner, but it tasted delicious. I thought about Mark. He hadn't tried to reach me since the morning. He probably realized it was hopeless. Or maybe he was too busy talking to lawyers. I wondered if he and Lily would stay together. Now that the thrill of the secret was gone, now that they were both broke and disgraced, would they still find each other attractive? I doubted it. Their relationship was built on sneaking around and hurting me. Without me as the common enemy, they had nothing. I checked my bank account on my phone. The refund from the university hadn't hit yet, but the $15,000 transfer from the joint account was safe and secure. I was alone. I had no fiancé. I had no family. I had no big house. But as I sat there eating my sandwich, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, I realized I had something much more valuable. I had my dignity. I had my voice, and I had the truth. The family had exploded, yes, but I was the one who walked away holding the detonator, and I didn't regret pressing the button for a single second. 2 weeks passed. The initial firestorm had burned down to glowing embers. The frantic calls stopped because they realized I wasn't answering. The social media posts stopped because Lily realized she was only embarrassing herself. I fell into a routine. I went to work. I had taken a few days off, telling my boss family emergency, but I went back on Wednesday. Walking into my office felt strange. I expected everyone to stare at me. I expected them to whisper, "That's the girl whose sister ruined her wedding." But nobody knew. I hadn't invited my coworkers to the wedding because I wanted to keep it small. They just asked, "How was the big day?" I looked at them. I could have lied. I could have said it was magical. "It didn't happen," I said simply. "We decided to go our separate ways." They looked shocked. "Oh, Grace, I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I said, giving a small, genuine smile. It was the right decision. And that was it. Life moved on. The world didn't end because I wasn't married. The sky didn't fall because I wasn't talking to my mother. One afternoon, I got a notification from the university. The refund of $5,000 had successfully processed into my account. That same afternoon, I got a notification from the court system. I had filed for a restraining order against Mark and Lily, not because I was afraid they would hurt me physically, but to stop the harassment. The judge granted it. I heard through the grapevine my cousin Sarah, the only family member I hadn't blocked, what was happening with them. "It's bad, Grace," Sarah told me over coffee. We were sitting in a cafe far away from my parents' house. "Tell me," I said. I didn't need to know, but I was curious. "Lily is back living in your parents' basement," Sarah said. "She's furious. She had to get a job at the mall because Mom and Dad can't afford to give her an allowance anymore since you stopped helping." I took a sip of my latte. "Good. Work will be good for her." "And Mark," Sarah hesitated. "Mark is in bad shape. He had to move out of his apartment. He's staying on a friend's couch. He's trying to sue the company for wrongful termination, but no lawyer will take the case because the evidence you sent was so clear." "He broke the contract," I said. "Actions have consequences." "Grace, you've changed," Sarah said, looking at me with a mix of awe and fear. "You used to be so soft." "I wasn't soft, Sarah," I said. "I was suppressed. There's a difference." The real turning point came on a Friday evening. I was walking home from work. I stopped at a flower shop. Usually, I would buy flowers for my mother because she complained if I didn't visit. Or I would buy Mark's favorite snacks. I looked at a bouquet of white lilies. I hated them. They reminded me of my sister. I turned and looked at a bunch of bright sunflowers. They were happy. They were bold. I bought them for myself. I walked home holding the flowers. I unlocked the door to my apartment. It smelled like vanilla candles, a scent Mark hated, so I never used to burn them. Now I burned them every night. I put the flowers in a vase on my small table. I sat down and looked around. This space was small. It wasn't the fancy suburban house with the white picket fence I thought I wanted, but it was safe. Nobody in this apartment was lying to me. Nobody here was using me for money. Nobody here was making fun of me behind my back. I realized then that the victim narrative was over. Yes, they had hurt me. Yes, they had betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. But I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a survivor. Actually, no, that wasn't right either. I was a victor. I had walked out of that ballroom with nothing but the clothes on my back, and even those were ruined. Now, 2 weeks later, I had my savings back. I had my job. I had my peace. My sister had lost her degree, her housing, and her reputation. My fiancé had lost his career and his future. My parents had lost their retirement plan, me. I had lost nothing but illusions. I had lost the illusion that they loved me. I had lost the illusion that I could buy their affection with loyalty. Those were heavy burdens to carry. Putting them down made me feel weightless. I went to the mirror, a small, cheap mirror hanging on the back of the door. I looked at myself. I looked younger. The stress lines around my eyes were fading. My shoulders weren't hunched up in tension anymore. "I like you," I whispered to my reflection. It was the first time I had ever said that and meant it. I was free. 6 months later, I was sitting in a restaurant by myself. It was a nice place, the kind with cloth napkins and candlelight. I was celebrating a promotion at work. I had taken on a new project, ironically, managing crisis communications for a tech firm, and I was killing it. I had ordered a steak and a glass of red wine. I was reading a book on my Kindle. Suddenly, I heard a gasp. "Grace," I looked up. Standing near the host's stand was a woman I recognized. It was one of Mark's aunts, Aunt Linda. She had been at the wedding. She had seen the cake incident. She looked uncomfortable. She shifted her weight from foot to foot. "Hello, Linda," I said calmly. I didn't stand up. We haven't seen you," she stammered. "Nobody knows where you went. Your mother says you ran away and joined a cult." I laughed. It was a genuine, throaty laugh. "A cult? No, I just moved downtown." "Oh," she said. She looked at my glass of wine. She looked at my calm face. She seemed confused. She probably expected to find me living in a gutter, broken by grief. How is everyone?" she asked, fishing for gossip. I took a sip of wine. "I have no idea, Linda, and I don't care," she blinked. "But they're your family. They are people I share DNA with," I said. "That's different." "Mark is working at a car rental place near the airport," she blurted out. "He looks terrible. He asks about you." I cut a piece of my steak. "I hope he finds peace," I said. And I meant it. I didn't need him to suffer anymore. His suffering didn't add anything to my life. I just needed him to be away from me. "And Lily," Linda pressed. "Linda," I said, putting my fork down. My voice was steady, polite, but firm like steel. "I am enjoying my dinner. I am happy. That part of my life is a closed book. I don't open it anymore." She stood there for a second, stunned by my boundary, then she nodded nervously. "Right, well, you look good, Grace." "I feel good," I said. She walked away to her table. I saw her whispering to her husband, pointing at me. I didn't care. I went back to my book. That was the victory. It wasn't a big screaming match. It wasn't a public trial. It was the ability to sit in a restaurant, run into a ghost from my past, and not feel my heart rate spike. I paid my bill and tipped the waiter generously. I walked out into the cool night air. The city was alive around me. I thought about the girl I used to be. The girl who braided her sister's hair while her sister pulled it. The girl who paid bills she didn't owe. The girl who stood in a white dress covered in red cake, waiting for her mother to hug her. I wanted to hug that girl. I wanted to tell her, it's okay to let go. Some families aren't meant to be repaired. They are like a house with a rotten foundation. You can keep painting the walls, you can keep fixing the roof, but eventually it's going to collapse on you. The smartest thing you can do isn't to try and save the house. The smartest thing you can do is walk out the front door before it falls. I walked to the subway station. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Tara, the student I had helped with the scholarship money. "Tara, Grace, I got an A on my thermodynamics midterm. Thank you for believing in me." I smiled. "Me, you did the work, Tara, proud of you." That was family. Family wasn't blood. Family was the people who appreciated you. Family was the people who cheered for you when you won, not the ones who threw cake at you when you shined. I got on the train. I found a seat. I closed my eyes and listened to the rhythm of the tracks. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I was whole. If you've ever been the one holding everything together while everyone else tears it apart, if you've ever been blamed for someone else's chaos, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, have you ever had to walk away to save yourself? I'm reading every story. Stay strong.